Today we are going to do different methods that are used to calculate GDP. In the last class, as you know, we understood the three different methods that are used to calculate GDP. We are going to study them in detail, in a little detail today. The three methods are, as you can see on the screen, value-added method or product method, expenditure method, and the third, income method. If we take the first method, what is product or value-added method? In product or value added method, the final value of goods and services which are produced by a firm for final consumption, not for intermediate consumption, for final consumption, are added to find out GVA. For example, if I have a firm, I produce goods or services worth 200 rupees, and there is another firm which produces goods and services worth 100 rupees. There is another firm which produces goods and services worth 500 rupees. Everything is added, and that becomes GDP. The value added of one firm is called GVA. That's the primary difference between GVA and GDP. Let's take an example. There are two producers in an economy, wheat producers and bread makers. So the farmers who produce wheat are called wheat producers, and then there are bread makers. Wheat farmers produce wheat worth rupees 100. Bread makers buy wheat worth rupees 50 from farmers and produce bread worth 200. Now this bread is consumed by the final consumer. The remaining wheat worth rupees 50, 100 minus 50, the remaining 50 is also consumed by the final consumer. So how do you find out GVA? Remember, GVA is goods or services produced for final consumption, not for intermediate consumption. So out of this 200, 50 is consumption for the production of this 200 worth of bread. So this 50, which is an input for this bread, will be reduced or will be removed from GVA, and then 100, which is the production of wheat, will be added. So 250 comes as the net contribution by bread makers as well as farmers. Here, the raw material which was taken by bread maker is an intermediate good. So this 50 is removed. Remember, removal of this 50 is not done twice. You may also argue that why it is taken as 100, because 50 has been given to the bread maker for making bread, but that has already been removed here. So it should not be removed twice. Now, the difference between gross value added and net value added. The basic difference is depreciation. Now, what is depreciation? Depreciation is consumption of fixed capital. There is certain wear and tear in the capital which is uh, available to the firm. So, if a firm has some machinery, there is always some wear and tear. When that wear and tear is removed from the value of GVA, you arrive at net value added. So, that is the level of depreciation. The second method of calculating GDP is expenditure method. The answer should be the same. The answer of expenditure method, product method, as well as income method should be the same. These are different methods, and I'm telling you through examples and through various formulas how to calculate GDP according to these different methods. Expenditure method. This is the final expenditure by consumers or households for final consumption. So when remember the circular flow of income, in circular flow of income we said that whatever the households consume is also equal to the value of product that the firms earn through their value added or through their goods. So that is how the answer of expenditure method should be equal to the product method. So what is expenditure method? In this, whatever the expenditure of households is final consumption, that is found out. Now what is the final expenditure? It is consumption plus investment. Investment for the firm is also an expenditure, so that should also be taken. Government expenditure, government of not only households, you start including the government of the expenditure of the government as well. And then there are exports minus imports, that is net exports. See, the example is very important here. Final expenditure received by the farmer through consumption by final consumer is 50. There we removed 50 from 200. Here we are removing 50 from 100 that the farmer earned by selling his wheat, because the final expenditure received by farmer through consumption by final consumer, because the 50 that he spent, that he earned by selling to the bread maker, is not expenditure for final consumption, that is expenditure for intermediate consumption. That is why we remove that 50 from this 100 rather than removing it from 200. Now the bread maker, whatever he sells to the consumer, is for final consumption. There is no intermediate consumption involved in this value of 200. That is why we do not remove anything from this 200. Investment by firm on capital goods is included as I, as investment goods remain with the firm. So because investment goods are not intermediate goods, because they remain with the firm, so that is why they are included. G is the expenditure that the government makes on final consumption of goods and services. X is the export revenue that the firm earns by selling in goods and services abroad. The third method is income method. In income method, you sum up the incomes of consumers or factors of production. Whatever the household, whatever the factors of production are earning, that is added to find out the GDP. What are the different ways in which they earn? Wages, profits, interests, and rent. These are the four. Now, how do they use this earning? There are three ways of using this earning. Either you consume, you save, or you give them towards taxes. So this C plus S plus T is to be equal to W plus P plus interest plus R. That is a formula, that is a statistical thing which you don't need to remember. You just need to remember that the concept behind it, which is how GVA is calculated in income method. There are four ways in which an income can be earned. So these incomes are added to find out the GDP. In the next class, we'll do different terms related to GDP.